Just responding to a set of assertions first, and then I'll read them to you. Most coronaviruses, as bad as SARS, MERS, and H5N1, and all of the others, including, well, there's a whole list of them, as well as common colds and things that cause pneumonia and the flu and bronchitises, all have caused diseases of the central nervous system, the CNS, not just COVID-19. There are many viruses that can do this, and saying there's parallels between COVID-19 and any specific one, it would really help if the connection you were making was actually one of them that isn't on the list. Newly infected cells from viruses obey instructions that the viruses give them to make copies of themselves. These viruses have to get out of the cell, sometimes by rupturing it, or sometimes just going through the outer layer of the cell, peeling off a layer of it with them so that they look like normal body cells. Some of them, however, induce the body cell, instead of doing these two things, to sprout streaming multi-pronged tentacle filaments, as some people are calling them. They're called filopodia. They are, in this case, for COVID-19, they're studded with viral particles that take this pathway mechanically being pushed out by constantly forming the fiber on the surface of the cell and pushing out your little virus bit here on a really long filament to reach other cells. It allows it to also anchor itself somewhat. Bacteria, protozoa, and other viruses also have this same type of material sticking out of them, but COVID-19 itself is not the first is not at first entering cells through tentacles, or even using this as a primary method necessarily. It normally infects a cell by just floating in. It's also not the only one that does it, so that's not a specific characteristic of it, nor is it something that would be unusual for a coronavirus either, or any other virus necessarily. Cobra neurotoxin was evaluated as a COVID-19 treatment for very specific symptoms, but that doesn't mean COVID-19 has cobra neurotoxin in it, nor does it mean that anything about cobra's DNA is in it. Asserting anything alike any of the above without giving an assertion source isn't acceptable. Even if these are very vague things, people do this all the time because they won't give you a source. Links below in the description to all the sources where I got this information from. If you are mixed up or someone lied to you about all of this and you're repeating a lie, then stop it. But if you won't tell me where you got this from because you're afraid I'm going to evaluate them and maybe find out that they have a grain of truth in it, or find out they're just fucking lying, then you are part of the lie. So I'm going to read the assertion that was left today, and it was, I'm sure it's this person just reading a bunch of crap from various sources and deciding to connect dots. It's not man-made, but I'm going to insert biowarfare stuff. It's becoming increasingly evident that it was manipulated. So it's a patsy, and there was a grassy knoll. It's gain of function of many access points into the cell, specifically. Cobra neurotoxins. It doesn't contain cobra neurotoxins. The only reference I could find anywhere, after 8 pages of looking it up through multiple search engines, says nothing of this. Also, there's a variation of the word cobra, as in cobra, or cobro neurotoxin, or cobro toxin, that you can look up, and I still couldn't find a connection. It doesn't contain cobra neurotoxins. Warning, bacteria sometimes can produce toxins as a waste product of their process of infecting or eating cells, and they do end up having neurotoxin capabilities. That's something we do know about. That's bacteria and viruses. Its ability to enter the central nervous system is apparently an added-on manipulated ability, but many, if not all, viruses have potential to do that. Head colds can cause neurological problems. Its way of entering cells through tentacles, similar to smallpox. Does smallpox actually do that? Now, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying, in both cases, is that the primary method, you get a transition from person to person or host to host. Remember, literally bacteria, protozoa, and viruses all have the ability to do this in some cases. Depending on which virus you're looking at, it'll have it. Some bacteria use it. There's flagella on protozoa. Why is this being brought up? These are just a few examples of functions that don't follow its natural potential mutation capabilities. So at this point, I'm assuming this is original research and you're a geneticist. You have a blank channel archived below. You have no content that shows that you have any source of information here. You're not explaining where you're getting your information from. And literally every fucking thing I've looked up says that you're saying something based on not reading the damn article or just making shit up. All that need be done is, and this is all you need to do, instead of it passing through maybe 4 hosts to get to where it can attack humans, and now it's attacking lots of other animals from us because we provide a very big reservoir for the virus. Human beings are the largest carrier of COVID-19, so now it's infecting other animals. Now we're the pestilence. But anyway, all it has to do is pass through enough different cell lines, and it would gain so much different functions. Yes, that's how viruses work. But he lists the following: pigs to monkey, monkey to bat, bat to pig, pig to pangolin, pangolin to human, and back to pig. For some reason, he decided to bring this up. That is what happens in nature. That's something we know about. Why are you saying this has to be done specifically by a lab? Again, everything you brought up, all of the points above, are not real in one case, or you're assuming it's only COVID-19, or you assign it to a specific virus that is not the best example of it. The coronaviruses are all the good examples of the shit you're talking about coronavirus doing because it's a member of the coronavirus family along with head colds. You can go find a source that contradicts me. You don't even have to put in the link. You can just type up what it says as its title and what web page to look up, the domain name, some damn thing. I've asked people to do this repeatedly, but at this point, I know no one's going to do that. You repeat shit you see on Facebook from memory. A treatment based on cobra venom isn't meaning that it contains cobra venom. Why would you do that? Anyway, they had the means to do this at the Wuhan lab, Bio-Level Security 4 lab. All right, here's a simple question. If you're not aware of this, other Bio-Level 4 labs have tried to reproduce this idea because they've been trying to figure out, just like they always do, how the hell did a disease that used to attack monkeys start attacking humans when it comes to AIDS? They've been doing research on this. People have been trying to figure out exactly what animal this thing transferred from so they could try to find the original virus source. Not because it's going to do us any good. That's a myth from movies. You don't have to look for patient zero to get the pure version. That's a trope in some movie. It's a MacGuffin or lampshade or some other damn thing. But they're trying to figure it out. And that means that they would sit down and experimentally now and try to rebuild COVID-19 from its source material. On purpose, in every country, because we have the DNA strands from all of these sources. And you know what? They haven't been able to fucking do it. You're saying it's as easy as running it through a bunch of animals, which sounds just like being at a wet market. Exactly like a wet market, with pets and animals for slaughter. And you're saying that these very specific characteristics that are only happening with COVID-19, that dead ass happen to almost all of them. No, it's not a bio. It wasn't built in a lab. It doesn't have any of those signs. You quoting this masterful artwork of just basically saying a zoo would produce it, ergo the name zootonic virus, disease. They were licensed to use live hosts to do experiments. Yes, they were. Every biosafety lab for location is potentially a location where they're going to use live hosts or animal tissue hosts. That the live hosts, if you're not aware of it, were animal cells, so that they wouldn't have living animals because they're harder to control. They do have the ability and the permission to use live animals, but only when they know that they can keep it contained at least within a petri dish. COVID-19 isn't really that safe, in case you haven't noticed. We found out that it can stay alive a little bit too long on fucking copper. So Yes, by the way, if you've looked up that stupid ad on cable TV saying you can use a copper coated cloth, don't. That's bullshit. Next. The gain of function research, it's actually a thing. Yeah, they experimentally try to figure out how diseases gain functions. And you know what? You can look it up and find out that not a fucking thing you've posted here makes any fucking sense because you're only making it to where COVID-19 can have it. So you can create a universe where it looks unnatural when this is literally, including your example, how this shit happens with every other damn disease. Hence the name swine fucking flu that I got one year. An avian flu. Now we have an agent that has breached the lab it was tinkered in. No, we don't, because every one of these memes is bullshit. So your original assertion that it wasn't man-made, but it has to have somehow some nefarious action by a government somewhere. Okay. But every other government that would love to make a controllable version of this has said they can't make the damn thing build in a lab. One of the things you want to try to do in a lab is reproduce the conditions that caused the damn disease in the first place. This has failed 100%. So only one lab was able to do it, and happens to be exactly where you'd have a festering cesspit for the disease to happen in. Yes, it did happen at a wet market. Yes, it happened within range of the bats we're talking about. They weren't imported in. Yes, it was found in bats hundreds of miles away, but the same species as the ones that are right over the Wuhan lab and right over the wet market. And by the way, I looked at the map recently. It goes 12 miles further north now because of the temperature changes. So they're finding the same bats all over the place. This disease was probably percolating in the population for a long time because one of the samples that's very similar to it is from years and years ago. This disease was existing in the animal population in general, probably in a way that wouldn't hurt us. And then it got into an environment where there were a lot of animals and a lot of people, and it got into somebody or a different animal, and it transmitted. And the big giveaway on this is the Chinese government, Russian government, and the United States government all agree that's what happened now. The the Chinese only bullshitted about this a little bit and gave up on it. They also punished some of their people for admitting this. They wouldn't punish you for posting a falsehood so they don't look like they did it on purpose. You could actually prove that it happened in a Wuhan lab if you could find some proof of it. What we find are, if I track down who the whistleblower is, I always find it's some bullshit story off of 4chan. That isn't helping your case. None of what you've said has any modicum of any kind of valid, reality-based anything we should pay attention to. It is not productive. It is based on trying to prop up a disproven conspiracy theory that someone invented out of their ass, but you didn't want to mention it until the last few lines. It was not invented in a fucking biolab, nor was it mutated or altered in one, because it shows no sign of it. And it's worthless as a weapon, period. And saying some agent, using very, very triggering language, hauling it out of a lab is horseshit as well. Thank you very much for posting this. At least I got to learn even more about biology, so I'm much more armored against horseshit postings like this. Again, most coronaviruses that you're talking about, and many other viruses and even bacteria and funguses and protozoa, have some of the characteristics you're assigning only to COVID-19 because you're trying to create a fucking straw man argument here so you can prop up something that was disproven months and months ago because someone decided to post a fake story. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Yes, I'm in a different room and it's echoing. I'm aware. Good day.